It is just past 2:30. It is another OG Live brought to you by The Butcher's Market. Check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. It's not too late to get your catering orders in for the holidays, or better yet, just get some sides for all those holiday parties. And of course, we are brought to you by Copiers Plus. Print management, document management, get your stuff to the cloud at copiers-plus.com. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies. We are inside Eford Studios, and we are now officially in the Bill Belichick era at North Carolina. That calls for a toast. I got a little bit left of this Whistle Pig tenure, so we're going to go with that. You got the shorties, which they don't count.
They don't count.
Your initial thoughts on the press conference so far?
A lot of nostalgia that I don't know why I wasn't prepared for that.
Dude, it's Carolina.
Invoking his dad. He even brings his dad's sweatshirt with a white 38 on it. Some good lines in there. I had some good years in the NFL. That was okay. Gave us the story about Billy's first words were beat Duke. Okay. Interesting. Number one, though, just the complete and total lack of polish. He just seemed very uncomfortable. You're talking about he's a bright, learned man. And
Joe,
the way that he was talking, he was like nervous.
Joe, no.
And there was ums. I mean, the only time he didn't give us an was when Skip Foreman had asked him a question and he gave it I'm here to do the best for the University of North Carolina. That could be the new refrain for him of I'm on to Cincinnati, because he's so scripted. And when you get him in a normal, his New England heyday, it was terse and he was intentionally obdurate. Mm-hmm. Today should have been a happy day, sunshiny day, get your message out there kind of day. The only message I took from him was I didn't come here to leave, when he was asked by our former colleague, Pat Welter, about if he has success in his first year, what will potentially happen. So I didn't come here to leave. Good stuff. He's asked about success, how he would define success, a classic Belichickian answer. Success is a day-by-day process. What's immediately in front of us, we got to keep stringing a lot of good days together, and the success will come. That was from Marty Smith at ESPN, kind of pointing out, are you here to dance? You here to go 9-3 or 10-2? Or you here to pull a Kurt Signetti and an SMU and immediately catapult Carolina football into the college football playoff?
Couple things. First one, to your point about how he was in this press conference, it was a Bill Belichick football press conference. You know this. There's Bill Belichick, who's tried to turn it on in media settings, and he's loose and fancy free with Pat McAfee. That's the setting. I know
that's not a press conference, though.
This was a football press conference.
That's what I'm saying. Though. Pat McAfee's not a press conference.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. We've seen him outside of that, and we know how he can be, is my point.
Right.
There was a documentary on HBO with him and Nick Saban that you lauded.
Yeah.
And it's just
amazing.
Just a couple dudes talking ball. A couple ball knowers talking ball, baby.
Yes.
But that's not what this is, because he's now in that mode. He's been trained in that mode with the setting, with the microphone in front of him and a bunch of press people in front of him, a bunch of cameras rolling, that I am not going to say anything that is going to, bite him in the ass or give too much away or whatever it is. He's back in football mode.
Compare that to the great line from Bubba Cunningham. I called Brad Stevens and Jay Wright.
Which, by the way, he's made that joke to us, number one. Number two, anybody who thinks that's a shot at Hubert Davis, y'all,
that's a joke.
It's a freaking joke from a self-aware AD. Okay?
Right.
It's a joke. So there were some people. Now, I will say that some of the stuff fell flat.
Sure. But he had a Bubba's message, and like I'm saying, the message was Bill Belichick's the absolute perfect fit at this time for North Carolina football as they kind of vault themselves into the modern era of college sports.
Yeah, from Davis Batchelor on Skip Foreman's question about detractors. Remember, Skip's question was about those who weren't exactly keen on this hire, and he gave you a very Bill Belichick answer. On to TCU. That's actually what he should have said in that situation.
No, this is the one we're going to get a lot of. No, I'm here to do the best for the University of North Carolina. I want you to clip that and put that on the board, please.
So the press conference setting Bill Belichick did not surprise me. It was so saccharine, the intro, with the referencing the Steve Belichick as an assistant coach and the sweater and then the cutoff jackets and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was so saccharine that even the most sugary Starbucks drink order was going, whoa, you sure you don't want, you sure you want to take that back? Like, what's going on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little too much, but also that's the kind of stuff that like Carolina old timers are like, yes, tell us how awesome Chapel Hill is. Give it to me again. Tell me how great we are. Tell us about how the sky is Carolina blue because God wanted that way. He's a Tar Heel fan, right? That kind of stuff hits their receptors just fine. I also thought the fact that he said, Billy's first words were beat Duke. Tell me you don't understand the dynamics of the triangle without telling me you don't understand the dynamics of the triangle, especially when it comes to football. If Bill Belichick was hired to be the basketball coach, heck, if he was hired to be the lacrosse coach, if he was hired to be any other coach, I'd be like, all right, I get it. But in football, that ain't the game that matters. The game that matters is the NC State game, straight up. That's what's kept Dave Dorn employed, and that's ultimately what got Mac Brown out the paint because he lost 4 in a row. Had he beaten NC State, I could see a different power struggle, but that's neither here nor there.
But they're positioning this decision as moving beyond triangle good, moving beyond caring about local.
Then why bring up Duke?
Parochial.
Then why bring up Duke?
Well, because apparently that was his first words.
Oh, okay.
It was fated. It was destined.
I see.
I mean, can't you read the Adam Lucas column already? Shouts to Adam in the hustle. I'm not knocking it. I'm just telling you that's going to be the lead to the column.
Because Adam knows his audience.
Right.
Which is my point.
Right.
He knows the audience. But we also know the reality of the area. That's what I'm getting at too.
Well, this will be the clash. I thought Ryan McGee had a tremendous piece for ESPN this morning about what the history of North Carolina football really is. And now you have the immovable force of Carolina football and the mendacity of Carolina football versus the greatest of all time to do it. He said it was Ramses, the Ram versus the GOAT. So I think Ryan is onto something there. And I do think this is the larger point of all of this. This is Carolina, kicking and screaming potentially behind closed doors with their moneymakers, saying, here's what we want to be about.
Yeah.
And it's not just about Bill Belichick and this season. It's about positioning themselves in the brand that they are. Yes, they are attractive. But the question is, do you want to go to the SEC or Big Ten and be a mark? Or do you want to go in and play up and beat them at their own game? And then you can have all your cake and eat it too.
All right. Let me strip away my initial thoughts in the press conference. And let's not lose sight of the fact that this is actually happening, that this press conference is happening, that Bill Belichick and the social media team and the Argyle tie, Alexander Julian clearly had that thing picked out for him. Let's focus on the actual thing that matters here. And the most important and the most impressive aspect of this, and this is where you give credit to the Board of Trustees, Bubba Cunningham and Lee Roberts, the chancellor, all finally getting on the same page to make this thing and land the plane. North Carolina beat the Tennessee 2017 and Auburn allegations. North Carolina managed to pull off the stuff of message board fantasies that you and I have been aware of for nearly 30 years. That anytime there's an opening in this area, specifically with football, it's our version of groomers. Tennessee, oh my God, John Gruden's coming. He's coming. He's coming, baby. Of course, that never happens, right? In NC State's case, it was, when Chuck Amato gets out the paint, who's got a house over in, the golf club up off False News. What's the name of that neighborhood? Anyway, neither here nor there. Bill Cowher's coming home. So maybe Chuck moves to a fundraising position. Bill's the coach. He goes on to be the AD, and it's all good. There were fever dreams about Mac Brown coming back and then being the AD. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, right?
Not yet.
No, maybe. There's still hope. There's still room for that. So the Bill Belichick stuff started off as a groomer, if you will, the John Gruden rumor, the Bill Cowher NC State stuff, and it became a reality. And now, I don't know what that means for other college programs going forward. They're like, well, if North Carolina could go get Bill Belichick, why can't we go get our big whale? That sort of thing. Maybe we can get Nick Saban out of retirement. That sort of thing. So I have no other way to put it other than salute to North Carolina for actually making this happen, because we've seen this play out in so many ways. So I am in awe of this actually happening. And at the end of the day, I can write out a list of cons, like how many instances you've seen NFL guys come to college with this idea that we're going to revolutionize college football. We're going to run a pro style thing. May I remind you of Herm Edwards at Arizona State and how that ended up? It took a college guy, Dillingham, to make this thing work at Arizona State. Lovie Smith did an okay job at Illinois, but again, it never really went over the top.
You're insulting Bill Belichick right now.
May I remind you of speaking of Bill Belichick, may I remind you of one of his acolytes, the schematic advantage that was Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame. Didn't really work out. So there's a list of things, but you know what? It doesn't matter because all these cons that I could write down, there's one pro. It's Bill effing Belichick. And Carolina is going to be the center of attention going forward from now until he goes. And if that's what you're looking for, to truly show that you're changing things up, man, we are absolutely here. All right, we are live today. We got a lot of moving parts. We got OG and friends sort of day today. Brooke Pryor is going to drop on by. Taylor Vippolis from Inside Carolina is going to come through. Jonathan Jones is somewhere out there in the ether, going to join us here in a second. But right now, we go to the official mayor of the ACC, a man who knows a thing or two about Chapel Hill. He is Wes Durham of the ACC Network. Wes, what's going on, man?
Gentlemen, good afternoon.
So, your initial take on Bill Belichick in Chapel Hill?
Well, there are two takes.
Okay.
One, and I just tweeted this about an hour or so ago. I remember my dad telling me a lot about Jim Tatum coaching at Carolina in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jim Tatum was hired as the football coach at Carolina, he had won a national championship at Maryland. And Jim Tatum had been the coach for one season in Chapel Hill before he enlisted in the service to go to World War II. And when he came back, he ended up at Maryland. He won a national. He won the first ACC championship in 1953, which also coincided with Maryland going 10-1. They won a national title. My dad always told me a story. He said, if Jim Tatum had not died of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Carolina football might be in a completely different place than where it ended up, so to speak, the 80s, the 90s, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Today is the first time in my lifetime I have felt like the standard of what Jim Tatum was potentially going to bring to Carolina has changed. I mean, Butch Davis was one thing. They got in the football business. It got ugly. Giglio knows better than anybody.
Yeah.
Mac Brown 1-0 certainly wasn't it. Mac Brown 2-0 had a little frosting to it. John Bunting was a nice emotional homecoming story. Carl Torbush was a descendant of Mac Brown. Dig Crum was a coach from nowhere. Miami of Ohio would have been a continent away when Dick Crum got the job, right? And now it feels like Carolina, for the first time in my lifetime, and I'll be 59 next month, has now said, we're going to try and do something in football we haven't done since 1956 when they hired Jim Tatum.
And even then, college football, it's so completely different now. This is why
it's different than it was 5 years ago.
I was going to say, even Butch, when he came in and had a similar thought process,
sure,
right? I still remember him vividly. You know, Butch and I actually had a decent relationship at the beginning. I still remember him saying to me and Zarzer, right?
Taylor Zarzer.
We're standing
Taylor
there,
Zarzer, yeah.
and he says, and he gives us the, because we were because I had to go over to him and say, hey, I got this. I need you to help me with something. And he comes over and he goes, if I gave you a rope and I asked you what would be easier to, if I gave you a knotted rope and I wanted you to unknot the rope, or if I told you here's a straight rope and you knot it up. And I was like, well, obviously you'd want the straight rope. You don't want to sit there and untangle the knots. I was clearly following the metaphor. And Zarzer was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, man, Butch is sitting here working with a knotted rope. In the portal era, Belichick doesn't have a knotted rope. He has a clean blank. He has a blank slate.
Correct.
That's what he has with this program now.
Yep.
And that's how it's changed so much. Butch's first team went 4-8. Mac's first team went what? They won one game or no games?
1-10 the first 2 years, the first time he was here. Correct.
Yeah. So this is to everyone's point. This is a completely different. What are they called? The gemstones, the stones, the infinity stones.
The infinity.
This is us moving the infinity stone, and being like, "Hey, well, Carolina did this," and it's like, no, this is a completely different thing. Completely different thing, and he has a clean look at this, Wes, because this schedule, my God,
I knew. I was wondering if you had already done it.
I'm watching my language. But this is a Swafford fever dream.
Well,
are you not even Swafford could push the nuclear button on this one?
Wait a second.
No Georgia Tech.
Wait a second.
No SMU.
No Miami. No Miami.
No Miami. No
Right.
anyone. He will have more talent than every team he plays except
Clemson. Correct. Rod, you took the words right out of Roddy Jones' mouth this morning on Sirius XM. We looked at the schedule, and Roddy Jones goes, "There's 9 sitting right there.
Yeah,
9 wins.
There is no rope to unknot here.
So
this is
let me say this too.
Analogies.
And I know you guys.
He's fighting triangle football.
Let me tell you what, Giglio. I wondered how long have y'all been on the air now? About 40 minutes. Giglio. Giglio. I was wondering had he gone to the schedule. I was wondering
yesterday.
First thing he did.
Because I got to tell you, this morning we pulled it up and Roddy looked at it and I said, well, the first game is going to be TCU. And I said, that will not be on the ACC network, by the way. But in fact, I'm not sure any of the 12 will be on the ACC network.
Well,
because he's getting ready to become the new Colorado too, by the way.
That's what I was. That's
gentrified, the gentrified Dion project is what we have.
Before you move on with the schedule, I do wonder if Jim Phillips, commissioner of the ACC,
his feet, Roddy Jones quote, his feet didn't hit the floor this morning when he got out of bed.
Is he digging up the 14th green at Sedgefield to find the super secret grant of rights agreement with Disney that has a clause that says when we get Bill Belichick, we go threefold up in terms of television revenue? Let me just
I texted you the one thing his feet didn't hit the floor this morning on, and then Bill Belichick's presser will be the second thing, right?
Yes.
The first thing is the article that appeared in USA Today where Michael Alford is quoted at the SBJ Institute yesterday saying, "We never said we wanted to leave."
No.
Yes, he did.
Florida State?
He said that. Yes, Mike Alford said that in Vegas during this SBJ thing. We never said we wanted to leave.
We never said we wanted to leave.
Excuse me?
Look at Giglio's face. This is worth the whole deal. Giglio had not seen this story.
No, it was all the things I was going to bring up.
Of all the things going on today, Giglio, Belichick is 1A. This might be 1B.
We never said we wanted to leave.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now so I can bring it up on YouTube real quick.
Yeah. I got it. I mean, it's a USA Today article by Matt Hayes.
Yeah, Matt Hayes wrote it.
Yeah, and
but anyway, back to the schedule.
So let's go back to the schedule. So Roddy and I this morning on ACC Today were looking over the schedule for 25, and here's the thing: they're going to rule the portal. If you don't think Carolina's getting ready to rule the portal, just based on the fact that imagine the kids whose parents are going to turn to them. And here's the other thing too. He's not so far gone from the National Football League that recruitable players don't know who this is, right? I mean, they never saw Deion Sanders play corner, most of these kids, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the parents who are saying, oh, that's prime time. You got to go play for him. They know who this guy is. They know all of his players. They remember, some of them are going to remember Tom Brady as a Patriot, right? They might have been 11 or 12, but they're going to remember Tom Brady. And now the scenario playing out is all of a sudden, reportedly, he's got a bag to go with and do this.
I was going to say the old model would be you would have to rely on people being like, no, I want to go play for six-time Super Bowl champion. Now it's like,
but hold on a second. Can I stop you two? Honestly, can I stop you two?
Sure, you can stop.
Two reasons. One, when has talent ever been a problem at Carolina? Getting talent, especially in the state, that's never been a problem. Larry Fedora let that thing just die on the vine because he was a foot out of here, right? Number one, number two. We're talking about NIL. We're talking about the commitment to football. Essentially, when you really look at the numbers, all North Carolina is doing is getting on par with Florida State. That's all they're doing.
Well, if they go to 20, if the reported number is right, they're going into the top 10 or 12 schools in the country.
Is that 20 that includes the house money that has to go out?
I have no idea. All you can ever go on in NIL is what's being speculated / reported.
I get that, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a floor that's going up everywhere.
Yeah, but the floor stops in July when rev share kicks in for the next year.
So I'm a little
but what I'm saying to you is in the old way, you
have to rely
on look at the sales pitch, right?
That's it.
The new way, which is
you
why
don't even have to go on the road, I don't think.
The new way, which is why it's so comical to hear the Tulane quarterback talk about what a great educational environment it is.
AJ
over at Duke.
Dybonsta, or however you pronounce his last name, going to BYU.
And then you have the top recruit in the country in basketball going to BYU.
Yeah.
Okay.
$7 million.
This is a case of money always talks, right? Yeah. So here we are again, blank slate, clean rope. easy schedule. All of it is in front of him. I will say this, though. I would caution against I want to go play for Bill Belichick.
Oh, I don't think he's everybody's cup of tea now. Don't get me wrong.
I think the 4 and 5 star guys who he's going to have to get a few of those. But I think he is more likely, and I think he was saying this at the end of the press conference because we jumped out of it. He is more likely to find Julian Edelman.
Yep.
He is more likely to find the wrestler who he played at left guard. He is more likely to go and find my guy at New Mexico State. That's who he's going to find and beat you with. He's not going to go get Cam Ward or one of these 5-star.
Oh, no, he's not going to get in the street
whole keys to the kingdom to someone like that. He's going to find every Julian Edelman. The casting call for white slot receivers is going to be wide and far.
Well, and the other element that I think is going to be interesting here, and you can already kind of start to see the dominoes line up here. Freddie Kitchens is being retained, obviously, on the staff. He announced that. How much longer before Josh McDaniels is named the offensive coordinator?
Matt Patricia coming through?
I don't know that. I don't know how that works. But Matthew Slater, James White, by the way, was working in an advisory role for a college team this year. Super Bowl MVP of 51.
I can't wait for Joe Judge to be here because we need the victory formation while you're down in your own end of the field. Joe Judge is going to be here.
And that's the thing. That's actually a good transition to why sometimes I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And I get it. It's good for business. I am absolutely going to be drinking from the SEO fire hose if we haven't already this week. So shout out to Bill Belichick. It's good for business. But let's also be realistic about where Bill Belichick was in New England post Tom Brady. You as an NFL guy with the Falcons understanding where the hits and the misses have been in the draft. Okay. His refusal or stubbornness to evolve with where things were going in the NFL and whatnot. Right. So all those things, and also his motivation. Seth Wickersham at ESPN wrote a deep dive on his motivation.
I read it.
And the long and short of it is, it's a big giant FU to the NFL. But I could easily make the argument that the NFL already told Bill Belichick, no, F you. Right. We don't want you anymore. And now he's in this position because if he could actually get an NFL job, do we really think he's at North Carolina?
Well, he can't get the control in the NFL that he wants, and he can't get control of an NFL franchise that I think, and Seth didn't write this, I'm going to assume from the way he wrote it, he can't get the NFL control of a franchise that he thinks is capable of getting there. Okay, that's the other issue. Let me also say this too. I just watched the press conference, okay, and I've read some things that were attributed to him and things of that nature. And I watched the McAfee interview on Monday. Those are the only two things I've actually seen Bill Belichick talk, right? But it's readily evident that some of this is emotional for him.
Of course.
And this is also being done at this time with this place because I think he actually wants to honor his dad in some way.
I get that.
And I think that is a pulling part to this. Now, it helps they're going to pay you $10 million a year. But I do believe there is an emotional piece of this that this is the reason this worked at Carolina and maybe not at an SEC school, perhaps, or things of that nature. But there are also going to be the things about Bill Belichick that are going to be a little galvanizing. Let's be honest. I mean, the guy has pros and he has cons. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the college game, if it's to the way it played out in the pro game, where, you know, he's always one step ahead of the game. He understands. He's the smartest coach in the NFL. There was no question about that. I think it's going to be one of the more interesting pieces as he goes back to putting Carolina at least in play in the ACC.
All right, Wes, before we say goodbye, I have a list of predictions if you'd like to participate in our
Absolutely.
Game. Okay.
Now, one better not be playing Tecmo Bowl with you guys because there's no chance that's happening.
Well, it's actually have a question related to that.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and address. Let's get the prediction first, and then we'll explain why you're saying.
Do we have sound effects for this, Giglio, or any kind? Or
I don't have any. I mean, here
we're just wading through it, reckless abandon.
You mentioned Tecmo Bowl. First question.
Love it.
How many coaches shows will he appear at Top of the Hill on Franklin Street?
Is there a number higher than 0? No.
We'll set the over and we'll set the over under at 1.5 because under. Okay, so he shows up for 1.
Under that.
Okay, which gets us to that was the prediction. You say under. People have been look. I truly mean this. I appreciate the sentiment. I think it just shows that we've established
You have.
standards
You
with
have.
what we do at ACC kickoff,
That is correct.
the kind of things that we do to change things up. Some people don't appreciate it in the league office, but I think our listeners do.
Yeah, but somebody drank a 40 with you.
Mac Brown did, and he went to
Who's
the
in-
ACC championship
And
game.
he's in the College Football Hall of Fame.
So you're welcome, Mac Brown. So a lot of people have wondered, well, what are you going to do with Bill Belichick?
You're not going to get that chance.
We're not going to get that chance. He's not. Do you really think he's good? Can you imagine him with some guy from South Carolina upstate talking about what he thinks of Clemson's 3 deep?
With white frame glasses on, yelling?
Yeah,
No.
Bill Belichick is not going to do that, y'all.
Nope.
He is
Nope.
not going to do that.
Sorry.
All right. Prediction number 2. Will Bill Belichick be the head coach on August 30th against TCU?
Yes.
Okay. How many years will Bill Belichick be the head coach of North Carolina?
Contract is for 5.
But technically 3 if you look at the wording. Like it's guaranteed for 3 if I understand it correctly.
Guaranteed for 3, written for 5. 72 now. Will he be 73 before the start of the season?
April.
Yeah, in April. I'll say 3.
Okay.
He'll be a coach for 3 years.
3
How's that?
years. Will he go undefeated against NC State?
Don't forget NC State, Duke.
Oh, good point.
Billy's first words.
Look,
Me too.
Dave Doran.
That was pretty good too, wasn't it, Giglio? Billy's first words beat Duke.
Beat Duke. Dave Doran had press availability today. He was asked a question about Belichick.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, yeah, no, look, competitors want to compete. It was a great answer up until he said, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that program. Dave.
Has anybody seen the Hard Knocks?
No.
Is anybody?
Dave, the reason why you've won 4 in a row against the Tar Heels, or AKA those pieces of shit over there, is because you think about Carolina all the time. It's a feature, not a bug. Own it, Dave. Will they go undefeated against NC State?
No, they won't.
Will that game be on the ACC network?
State Carolina next year?
Carolina next year will be on the ACC
I'm
network.
sure there will be a Carolina game on ACC network next year. I'm not sure it'll be that one.
Side tangent. Are you prepared? Will you, if you get a game on the ACC network featuring Bill Belichick, are you prepared for the production meeting?
Yes,
Ready to
absolutely.
go. You're going to go?
Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be better than the Bobby Petrino production meetings.
Just let him have that one. And on that note,
No. Will he have
Giglio, you liked that one, didn't you?
I did a walk
Didn't see that one coming, did you,
a
Joey?
walk off from Wes?
Yeah,
But no, I have 2 more.
Okay.
2 more.
great. Is that a
Will-
high life, by the way? The champagne and beers there,
You got
Giglio? Good man.
Yeah,
The minis.
choice don't count.
Flashback to the Apex High School right there.
Shout out to Darren Gant, friend of the pod, who is watching right now on YouTube. Giglio
Okay.
drinking the pony during the show. My kid calls those friendly beers. They don't count.
Friendly
No,
beers.
Friendly beers. They
That's
don't
great.
count. Will Bill Belichick appear in an ACC title game?
Yes.
I'd be more inclined to say that if the Coastal still existed, but I'm not so sure.
I think this league, with this move in some small way, may be on the verge of getting its flowers a little bit for the football.
Okay.
It may take a year. We may get to 26 before it happens, but I think the league is on the verge of being pretty good.
And-
Assuming we don't have any landscape coaching.
Well, I mean, also Florida State's not going anywhere, as evidenced by the
The quote in Vegas.
amazing quote. Final question: will UNC make the playoffs under Belichick?
Yeah, that's a possibility.
That's a possibility.
I'd say it's a possibility. I'm
Okay.
not going to say yes or no.
But yeah,
Strong.
you didn't see this, Joe?
Joe.
USA Today. They're at
Joe,
the,
just whoa. Just scroll right down to the start of the quote
Yeah, here we go.
and then take off. Just read the next 2 graphs right there, kids, if you're on
We're-
YouTube.
Yeah, we're in the league. The last time I looked, Florida State Athletic Director Mike Alford told USA Today Sports during the Sports Business Journal Intercollegiate Forum, we never said we wanted to leave the league. Actually, they did. In Florida State's August 2023 lawsuit against the ACC, on page 32 of the 38-page complaint, item 151 states, quote, Florida State be deemed to have issued its formal notice of withdrawal from the ACC under section 145 of the ACC Constitution, effective August 14th, 2023. And also they pulled this Drew Weatherford quote from a Board of Trustees meeting. It's not a matter of if we leave, but when and how. But they never said they wanted to leave, Wes.
It's amazing.
That's the Bill Belichick effect.
It's amazing.
Florida State's going, damn, Bill's here? We don't want to go anywhere. TV revenue about to go up, baby.
I had an athletic director tell me he picked a bad year to have a bad year, Giglio.
Wes, you are the best as always, man. We appreciate you making time. We will talk to you later.
Take care, guys. Be well.
Let's do a little housekeeping, shall we? Which is brought to you by Enovana.
Housekeeping.
You can check out Enovana online, enovana.com, green cleaning solutions. It's a great way to do a stocking stuffer. You can buy a one-time cleaning if you want, before or after the holidays. Great idea.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
We got the OG tailgate on Sunday. Bill Belichick showing up?
I don't think so.
Is he going to crank the siren?
At some point, yeah, that's faded.
You know Doug
Can't
Worf.
wait for that.
Yeah, Doug Worf is on that thing.
Sondheim. That's a Sondheim production.
Okay, Sondheim production. Will they have a sleeveless Carolina Hurricanes jersey to give to him with a hoodie underneath so he can do that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure Tom Dundon's already ordered that thing, right? So OG tailgate, we're going to be there starting at what? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
East lot, the 1000 East lot, right there by those beautiful pines.
I love it.
Outside of the eye, our friends from Nature's Relief will be there to help us celebrate.
I'm going to have a great time out there.
And we have hot dogs and natty lights.
Very
old school tailgate, man.
Big thanks to Breaking Tea. They do our T-shirts, the official show merch with Ovies and Giglio and things like that, the Dead Conference logos and things like that. And they got a great deal for the holidays. Give the gift of the OG. You can go to breakingtea.com/OG. When you buy one of our shirts and use the promo code OG at checkout, a free mystery shirt along with 10% off that shirt order. So again, breakingtea.com/OG. Use the promo code OG. You'll get 10% off one of our shirts and then a free mystery shirt. And I'll remind you that the Basketball Jones, a lot of people are asking for Bomani's take on this. We'll talk to Bomani, I'm sure. But you can see Bomani in person January 31st at the Rialto along with us, Marcus Ginyard, Tyler Hansborough, and others. It's going to be a good time in downtown Raleigh, so come check us out for the Rialto. Go to therialto.com and buy your tickets today. I went over to Longleaf Swine for lunch today. The boys did it again.
What'd you get?
Barbecue quesadilla.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, use the smoked pork inside with peppers, onions, a little bit of their salsa roja. It was and a little cheese, guac, and some sour cream. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And you can get all sorts of barbecue inspired goodies at Longleaf. Just go ahead to longleafswine.com. Better yet, just go downtown. They got things. They got the drapes down, and they got the heaters inside. It's a great spot, and holiday catering that wraps up next week. Wednesday of next week is when their holiday catering wraps up. Big thanks to our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. You can go to bugsbite.com. You can bundle and save with your mosquito treatments outside once it starts getting warmer outside. But in the meantime, you can take care of the inside of your house with our friends at Pest Authority. And of course, Breeze Through. Are you going to be getting some natties at the Breeze Through Beer Cave before we go to the tailgate?
Beer. Okay, I'll get you some snacks too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. So head on over to breezethrough.com to find out more. Download the app. You can actually save on gas, which is always money. And we will see you at a tailgate very, very soon. So we're waiting on Jonathan Jones is going to join us here live in a little bit. So let's go ahead to the YouTube live chat. From Bennett, Bubba sporting a cutoff blazer is downright embarrassing for him. Have some pride, man. Also, the cutoff sleeve jokes have already run their course in less than a day. Well, buckle up, folks, because they ain't stopping.
It's gonna be a minute, man.
They ain't stopping. Shout out to Sam OBX. If you want your Outer Banks news, man, Sam is always on top of it. Go support their Patreon. Sam actually texted me. He says, "You guys got your hurricane." Like, all right, this is like when you're on the Outer Banks, get that max coverage. Bill won the tie game. Was there any doubt? From Drew, D1 coping from State. Look, Drew, I am not going to argue with you. There's all sorts of ways that people are going to be coping with Bill Belichick at North Carolina because they're going to be getting a lot of attention, man, a lot of attention. Good to see UNC Chapel Hill is happy to back the Brinks truck for nepotism power moves and set the athletics department up for such a fall to come. Such a pessimistic attitude. What happened to Baba? What happened to positive vibes only? Come on now. Let's see. What else do we have here? From Steve. The content of the first interview with Bill on the OG podcast will be epic content. He's just going to keep repeating, we're on to Bomani. Hey, man, I'd rather do that too. Let's be real. Let's see. What else do we have here? From Kyle. This is a very good point. If that press conference had been for NC State, North Carolina fans never would have let them hear the end of it. I'd say that's a pretty on point way of looking at it. All right, let's go to the OG sports phone, since that has also been ringing off the hook.
919-444-2211. Call the OG sports phone and curse or don't.
Let's go. Where did the OG sports phone go? I think I might have closed out of that for like a hot minute. All right, here we go. Let's see. This is from a 920 number.
Hey guys, Kelly up in Green Bay. About this Chapel Bill being hired down in Carolina. Like most State fans, I find it amusing. I also find it intriguing. And I think this, for me, is sort of like when I see a car go spinning on our slick roads in the middle of winter. I'm going to try to figure out if this person's going to save it and miraculously get it back in gear, or are they going to just slowly slide down the snow hill? Because this could be one of the biggest hires that would change Carolina football, as everyone says, or this could just utterly blow up in their face. And the track record shows me that typically, except for Roy coming back to save Carolina basketball after the car accident that was the hire before, and we're still don't know about Hubert Davis, I just can't see this happening. But the show, I am down for, and we'll see how this all works out. Maybe Bill's got Bugs Bunny physics in him, where he can drop out of the sky and not get hurt and just step onto the ground. We'll see. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the way to look at it. I'm with Kelly. Say what you want. You can be a hater for this. You can try to think about it logically. It might not make any logical sense. It is college football at the end of the day. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Don't get me wrong. But why not just buckle in and see what happens? I'm here for the ride, man. We've never seen anything like this. I was actually on WFNZ earlier today. And you've done this for a long time. I've done this for a long time. And there is an easy trap to fall into, in that you're not going to be surprised by what you see anymore, right? Like nothing amazes you. Like, yeah, this is just a variation. When it comes to Carolina football and NC State football, we've always made the joke that it's triangle good and it's the Spider-Man pointing me. Okay. And they've tried, but this is the latest and greatest, most insane way that they're going to try to break through out of triangle good. I'm here to see how it all plays out. And every so often you ask yourself, all right, well, if nothing really amazes you, what's going to take to like surprise you? Like you can't believe what's unfolding in front of you. But it happens every so often. I mean, let's go back to 2022 with Kay's farewell tour. All right. I did not go to Cameron Indoor that night expecting Carolina to pull off what they pulled off, and watching all these Duke greats behind Mike Krzyzewski sweating through their little commemorative Coach K shirts, watching Jay Williams like timeout in real time, and Mike Krzyzewski going to the court after the game and saying that's unacceptable. Like what could top that, Joe? Oh yeah,
playing in the Final Four together.
The thing that people have talked about for years and years and years, the great what if Carolina and Duke met in the Final Four? They did a couple of weeks later. And how did that end? I watched Coach K going off in an easy go kart, ending his career. Surreal to me. I'm like, okay, man, what's going to top that, right? I've seen a Stanley Cup in the building. I mean, what's going to top that? Bill freaking Belichick taking the North Carolina job? So I'm like legitimately in awe of what's unfolding. It's still like not real to me that I'm seeing all these Bill Belichick logos and the pictures of him in Carolina blue and this press conference and all that stuff. Hey, man, let's just see how it all plays out. I'm here for it. I mean, that's why we do what we do, man. That's why we do what we do. All right, let's go to a 336 number.
How's it going? Jeremy here. Tar Heel grad 2019. Was at Chapel Hill during the ACC championship run with Marquise Williams and then Mitch Trubisky. And then things went really south my junior and senior year under Larry Fedora, finishing 2-9, failing to reschedule a Hurricane game with UCF, and now 3-9. Gave us Mac Brown after post-graduation to give a jolt to the football program, and now here we are talking about the remarkable. Part of it is still surreal, but the real question lies two things. One, how long does Bill Belichick actually coach at North Carolina? And two, what are the ramifications if there is success for Bill Belichick, which there inevitably will be at North Carolina? Will it be he bolts in the NFL, proving NFL teams that he's still got it and can do it for a team that might need to get over the hump eventually to win a Super Bowl? I don't know what that case is, but he's still 15 wins away from Shula's record. And I can imagine the drama that goes on around college athletics might get very dull very quickly. My hope is the long-term outlook still allows them to be able to bring in a longer-term coach with a jolted program leading them into national contention, a step below, although a eyelash, hopefully, of programs like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, just enough to be considered a contender for the playoff every year. Love to hear your thoughts. Recruiting is obviously going to have to matter. The portal is going to have a huge impact. But as Joe mentioned yesterday, the future of Carolina is bright for the moment, especially with their incoming schedule. So love to hear you guys talk that one out a little bit.
I think this is the value of the press conference today and hearing what Belichick had to say. It's fairly clear. We can deduct between the press conference and the Seth Wickersham article on ESPN that the NFL didn't want Bill Belichick anymore.
Yeah.
So instead of him saying, you know what, this McAfee thing is awesome. This media thing is awesome. He said, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go coach. I'm going to go coach somewhere where my dad was, right? So there's a pull for him. It's a college town, not unlike Annapolis, where he spent most of his life. You're away from Boston. You're away from New York. You're away from, these big NFL areas, as I've tried to tell you about NFL and Major League Baseball places. Like, yeah, they're big niches, but that's what they are. In college towns, there's nothing like that. Carolina, Chapel Hill, there's nothing like Chapel Hill. I mean, it's right up there. So if you want to retire by coaching and doing it in a way where you are literally now, again, this is not a challenge he takes, just like we don't start a podcast in 2019. This is not a challenge he takes in the previous era.
No.
He takes this challenge knowing he can have immediate success. And he refused to define success there in a very classic Belichick answer. He said it's a day-by-day process, right? So for him, I think he's coming here and saying, fine, the NFL doesn't want me anymore. Cool. Fine, I'm moving on. I have 6 Super Bowls. Don Shula didn't win the Super Bowl 6 times. I did.
Yeah.
Like, what does he need to prove? What will 14 more wins really do for him? Right? Ultimately,
because you also have Andy Reid.
What does it matter?
You have Andy Reid, who's coming up from behind.
Sure.
So he might not have it for very long.
That's fine. And that's fine. But I would just say, I think by listening to the words that he was saying today, he's essentially saying, you know what? I'm 72 years old. The NFL doesn't want me anymore. So I'm going to go to a great college town that I do have a family connection to. I can bring at least one of my sons to be the defensive coordinator. Yeah. He has another son who's an assistant with the Patriots right now. If he wants to come down and do that, awesome. I've heard from very good people that his girlfriend would like to get a graduate degree from the University of North Carolina. What else is there? I mean, seriously. Oh, and he gets $10 million to do it.
Not too bad, right?
I mean,
not too bad.
What do we do? He says it beats working, right? That's what he said. It beats working.
That's why we do what we do.
He wants to coach. So if you're going to go and you're going to coach and do the things that he wants to do, then I believe him. He's not here to leave. I didn't come here to leave.
All right, so we are live. JJ, you ready, man? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, we are ready. Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports, Daily Tar Heel legend, Carolina legend. I love the hoodie, dude. Absolutely love the hoodie. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Hey, man, we appreciate the time. I know things have been wild with the league meetings and, of course, being a college and NFL insider at the same damn time.
Look, I don't want to cover any more college football head coach searches. That is for another group of people. That is a whole other world. God bless everybody who does that. God bless anybody who wants to do that. But I'm going to keep myself in the NFL from here on out.
Well, the funny thing is, I was keeping more tabs on what NFL insiders like you were saying related to Bill Belichick. So my question for you, when did this become real? It went from the classic, oh, John Gruden's going to Tennessee. Oh, yeah, no, Bill Cowher's going to take that NC State job. Trust me. To, oh, wait a minute. This actually is going to happen. When that flip?
Okay. For me, it flipped Friday, when it became clear to me, when I was able to get from multiple sources that meeting in New York on Thursday went down.
Okay.
Because everyone would talk about leverage and how he's using so-and-so. And so that was the first real sign to me that this is more than what I think it is. And the more I talked with folks, the more I began to believe it. But in NFL circles, because I was just at the league meetings in Dallas, so you have owners, you have team presidents and executives, a number of general manager and general manager candidates. As recently as Wednesday morning, most people there did not believe it was going to happen. And in texting with head coaches, coordinators today, they still can't believe that it happened. So that is the sentiment in the NFL. And that's what I was having to work against, where all of my sources, right, in the NFL are like, they couldn't believe it. But then everyone that I talked to in the college world and in Chapel Hill were telling me, no, it's real. So I had to vet for myself. Are you the rube or do the NFL guys just not understand what's happening?
Are you surprised that Bill Belichick doesn't get a second chance in the NFL? I advanced earlier today that even Rich Kotite got a second NFL job, and he's considered the worst NFL head coach of all time.
I'm going to say this. I know a lot of people have said this. This has become a very, the prevailing theory that the NFL broke up with Bill Belichick. I don't agree with that. Okay. So let's go back through it. Last year, 7 jobs open. We're not going to count the Patriots, right? So 6 jobs open. 1 interviews Belichick. It's Atlanta. He ultimately doesn't get it, in part because there was a concern about how much power, how much control he wanted. And so then he goes on this media spree. He lets people know he doesn't have to have full control, all of those things. You look at it right now, there's 3 open jobs, and he didn't want to go to the Saints. He wasn't going to the Jets, the Bears. And I know there was some reporting earlier today, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't hire him, but he didn't find out. The Jaguars, I think, ultimately probably would have hired Belichick. There are other jobs that could have come open. If the Giants just fall on their face the final 4 games of the season, it could happen. I don't think it is, but it could. So I don't buy the fact that Belichick looked at the NFL and said, oh, I'm going to get shut out again. And he knew that. And that's why he went to college. Did he think it could happen? Perhaps. But I have never viewed this as, oh, no, we're not breaking up. Or you're not breaking up with me, I'm breaking up with you. I haven't viewed it that way, but I know a lot of people in the NFL have, and that's why you're hearing that a lot out of NFL circles.
I mean, my surprise, Jonathan, was Bill, to Bill's credit, he always finds the market inefficiency, right? Whether it's a rule, something, he always finds a way. And I was wondering, for a guy who was so anti-media friendly when he was a coach, he turns it on. I think we understand a lot of coaches do this. But I thought it was interesting that he was so playful about the Carolina job or the idea of a college job. And I always thought that North Carolina could potentially be getting played here to apply pressure on a Jerry Jones, apply pressure on the Jaguars, saying, look, I know you've been saying you guys got these guys on lock, that Mike McCarthy's not going anywhere. But come on, Jerry, let's be real. Otherwise, I'm going to go to college.
Yeah,
I mean, that was in play.
What were they supposed to do? That Dallas was supposed to fire Mike McCarthy with 4 or 5 games left at that point? I do understand that, but play out that theory, right? It's
They're
okay.
they're not in playoff contention.
Well, yeah, but I mean, then you say that the rest of the season doesn't matter. Now you are going to openly flaunt the NFL rules. You're going to run a sham search, and then ultimately you're going to employ Bill Belichick. Also,
I mean, we've seen sham searches though.
No, of course we have, and sometimes like you try to cover it up a little bit so it's not just completely naked. But let's also not forget that there is still an active class action lawsuit against the NFL that does involve a text from Bill Belichick.
You're right. You're right. Oh wait, wrong, Brian. Man, my bad. My bad. I forgot about that one. All right. Let's strip away. Do you think Bill Belichick? You think he could get another job in the NFL?
Yeah, I am not at all convinced that he was going to get frozen out this upcoming cycle. In fact, I would probably argue that the removal of Bill Belichick from the potential coaching pool is now going to decrease the number of available head coaching jobs. And I say that because if you believe that there's a Belichick, a Vrabel, a Ben Johnson, right? We can keep going on with a Aaron Glenn, Brian Flores, Matt Nagy. That's 6 coaches I just named.
Okay.
There are going to be 6 to 8 openings is what we all have really kind of reported over a while. Well, an owner is going to say, well, if there's not going to be Belichick and maybe I'm not the top job, so I'm not going to get Ben Johnson, they're going to look at one of these guys down the list and they're going to say, is this coach who's not here going to be better than the coach who already is here? Then they're going to start convincing themselves, well, this was an issue. We had these injuries. They're not going to want to pay the buyout, and they keep the coach. So I think that there will be fewer jobs open now because Bill Belichick went to college.
All right. I want to strip away veteran NFL insider Jonathan Jones from this conversation. I want Tar Heel online J Jones 9. I want him back.
J Jones 9. Russell Wilson, you fucking fraud. Don't you dare take one step on that field on senior day.
I want you back. Let's go back in time. I want Carolina JJ here. Are you surprised that Carolina is going not half-ass in football, but whole-ass reforming their athletic department for this guy with some unknown effects on the very identity of the university, which is basketball?
Yeah. I'm a little surprised by it because we all know that UNC is not going to be a football school.
Yeah.
Right. It's a basketball school that will enjoy and indulge football. And so it's not going to take away from football. And I know like nationally, and I was just saying this on air, but you guys know that it matters, like winning national championships and the non-revenue and the Olympic sports, that matters. And so I don't think that they're going to want those places to suffer as much for the sake of an interloper. Like we all kind of hyped up this whole, here's a picture of young Belichick on the the steps of Kenan Stadium. And he brings out his dad's sweatshirt, which was really cool, right?
Sure.
He doesn't have really a connection to Chapel Hill. Let's stop acting like that, right? And it's also relative to the people that Carolina typically hires have legitimate connections to Chapel Hill, right? He barely knows Chapel Hill better than Larry Fedora did when he got hired. Okay. So
yeah, but he probably has a connection to his dad. Like you're still young, right? Like, and you'll get there in your life. And I'm turning 50 this year, so sorry for the soliloquy here, but he's at a point in his life where he's going, and let's be honest, right? Like this girlfriend is 24. What is she? Number 3 on the list?
I don't know.
Right. I mean, so you're sitting here thinking you're 72. You're reevaluating your life. You're going, you know what? Maybe I made some stupid fucking choices. Now I'm going to go get my 2 sons. I'm going to go do this thing. This is where my dad once coached. You feel good about yourself.
Post up at He's Not.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, man.
Yeah, man.
Do whatever you want.
I mean,
seriously, go enjoy it with your family. And so I'm not going to diminish the connection. I know what you're saying. He's not born and bred. Right. He's not Caleb Love. He doesn't have for life on the shoes.
But to JJ's point, they took time out of their freaking press conference to introduce Bill Belichick to shout out the Wolf Blood and the Women's Soccer Championship.
They did.
And Aaron Metzen.
And Pep.
Okay. And Pep. That stuff matters to Carolina, man.
It does. And I'm glad that they took the time out of the press conference because for some reason, the chancellor had to run 40 minutes into the press conference. Like,
He's got a real job, man. It can't all be athletics at a university. Ask Holden Thorpe. Does he?
Yeah, I'll find him on Blue Sky and ask him.
Yeah, well, Holden's already been tweeting at me on Blue Sky. So shout out to Holden Thorpe, my guy.
No, I will say though, to answer your question, you asked me to sort of like divorce reporter from UNC fan or whatever. Like, let's be completely honest, right? There's not a whole lot of me. I'm gonna lie to you if I tell you I've watched more than like a quarter of UNC football this season.
You don't have time.
Like it just, I mean, with my travel on Saturdays and all that, all that stuff's true. Now they are playing down the road for me in the Fenway Bowl. So I may go be checking them out here very soon. But I would just say it is impossible for me to take the reporter hat off because of how amazing this story is. Like, I don't want it to necessarily succeed or fail, but I want it to do one of the two. I do not want them to go 7-5. I want this to be a disaster, or I want this to be they're
somewhere in the middle.
Dude, are you ready for
not 7-5? Their schedule is an abomination. They're going to go 9-3, 10-2.
Are you ready for Bill Belichick to have mayo dumped on his head?
I can't wait for him to opt out of that.
I mean, he'll opt out of everything.
Yeah, he's going to send Michael Lombardi in. You know, just like the in-game interviews, like how Coach K never did them.
Yeah, Capel did them.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Jonathan Jones, CBS, NFL Insider, Carolina legend, a real one. Hey, man, we appreciate your time as always. I'm going to, real quick, because I've been asking everybody for their predictions, okay? I got Wes on board. I got Brooke on board. I need you to chime in on this. Since we're running out of time here. All right. How many years will Bill Belichick be the coach at North Carolina? It's a 5-year deal. It's effectively 3 because of the guarantees.
3.
All right, 3 years. Will he go undefeated against NC State?
No.
Sidebar. How's that going to go down when it happens at Carter Finley next year?
Oh, he will get the win at Carter Finley, but they will lose at some point in Keenan.
I gotcha. And then the last one, this is kind of a trick question. Will he actually be the head coach on August 30th against TCU? Is there a napkin that he pulled from Linda's when it reopens?
I will say this, that I have to believe that there are some very smart lawyers involved in this to ensure that he will be, we have a law school.
That's true. And Bubba did get the right lawyers for the NCAA.
I was going to say, think about that marriage. You got Belichick bending and knowing every rule possible. This is the school that gave you. Well, it's not really a benefit because it's available to all of the students.
Goated.
What a marriage.
Goated. All right, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Homefield. You can buy all the Carolina gear. It's time to get fitted, y'all. Look at that Carolina hoodie. Buy one, cut the sleeves off.
Yep.
Look good. Feel good. Right now, they have a site-wide sale, 20% off. So maybe you want to save that OG24 for yourself. But go ahead and go to homefieldapparel.com right now. Use that promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order, or take advantage of the online sales right now. Get all your Carolina gear. Of course, the Butcher's Market, our friends, they are providing you OG Live every Thursday, and make a whole night out of it. Go to Butcher's Market, get yourself a meal, and then run through 2 Roosters to get your ice cream. Got all sorts of Christmas cookie goodies, Joe.
Jared is serious about the power through crew shirts. Should I tell him?
Yes.
Okay.
I will wear those.
No, I think he wants our Connect to come up with that.
Okay. I think, all right, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
I'll see what I can do with that. In the meantime, you go to 2 Roosters, you check out all their flavors. They're all fantastic. Right now, they got all sorts of Christmas goodies, Christmas Yule logs, all that fun stuff. And of course, Canes game tonight, Joe.
Is there?
No. It's tonight.
Ottawa, I think they play Friday.
No, I thought they played tonight.
Okay.
I think they play tonight.
Why are you confusing me?
Because before all the things were, tonight, Canes.
Ottawa?
No, I'm sorry, Friday. You're
Friday.
right. So go when you're at the arena tomorrow, go to 2 Roosters, get the Slavin Sunday. It's always delicious. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, he is Taylor Vippolis, Inside Carolina, Dan Le Batard show, and a man that I owe an apology to, straight up. I mean, I got the text messages. I'm texting you like, come on, man, so much hedging. You're like, no. And there it is. Bill Belichick to North Carolina with those inside Carolina sources. So I wanted to get that done right out of the way, Vip.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I trust my sources. I trust the reporting. The team at Inside Carolina does such a great job with being like very thorough.
Yeah.
And when they put out that Bill Belichick, the deal was finalized and Ben Sherman made that decision, the national guys were the ones that were kind of backtracking, saying like, no, there's still a good amount of hurdles. And we kept hearing that the word was soon, like soon this deal is going to be finalized, soon, to the point where there was so much pushback from the national guys. In my mind, they were gaslighting me to the point where I'm like, you know the saying, like, sometimes if you don't see a sucker, you might be the sucker.
Right.
I was like, am I the sucker right now?
Okay. So in that conversation, right, I never for a second doubted how Inside Carolina goes about its business. I mean, I'm on record for that. But I think that what my argument has always been, there's a cadence to, and Joe knows this better than anybody when it comes to college coaches and college coaching searches, and there's a cadence to this. The wild card in all of this was Bill Belichick. And when I saw the Adam Schefter, Pete Thamel story with the looming issues, I looked at them as potential outs for a guy who famously was the Jets coach for a day. You know what I'm saying? So it looked like it was one of those, maybe Bill didn't think Carolina would give him all the things he was looking for. Like, I got this list of demands. There's no way you're going to meet him. And they did. And they came together. And now we're here. And I think that's where that doubt started to creep in for me, not from Carolina's perspective or Inside Carolina's perspective. It was Bill. Bill's always been the wild card in this situation.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think it kind of goes back to how we even got to the point of Bill Belichick being the coach, where you hear the name Bill Belichick, and even from Carolina's athletic department standpoint, when you hear the name Bill Belichick, it was kind of like, okay, we'll give him this courtesy interview. He's trying to raise his stock, his profile, like a lot of coaches do when it comes to these job interviews. It's not serious. And then Bill Belichick sits down. He turns the charm on for Bubba Cunningham. And then all of a sudden, Carolina's administration leaves that meeting being like, wow, this is a lot more real than I think we thought it would be initially.
So you say, I thought he met with Lee Roberts. I didn't.
So what's the timeline here?
Give us a little bit.
What's the real timeline? Give us a timeline.
Yeah, his initial meeting, from what I understand, was with all the powers that be, Lee, Bubba, a few of Carolina's like biggest boosters, and then I think, I think after that meeting is when it started to get pretty serious with people. I think the Lee Roberts one was the one that happened on Sunday, where it was like the 5-hour conversation that was kind of reported on the Manning cast.
When you see the numbers that are being used about, I have a question about his son and how you think that might be structured. But when you see the numbers, when you mention those boosters, do you think the money has always been there for Carolina football? Or do you think now the real news here isn't that Carolina is hiring Bill Belichick, rather that they're serious about investing in football at a level that will put them in the conversation to be a national contender?
I think it's a two-part thing why this Bill Belichick story is so big, both at the national level and the local level. The macro is, this is the first time we've kind of seen where Carolina has pushed all its chips in on committing to, big time football. There was Butch Davis getting hired, and that was kind of that step in the right direction, but they get burned by Butch Davis, and then they kind of resort back to not fully buying in the whole basketball school mantra. So Bill Belichick taking the Carolina job, I think, is a signal for the fans, for the boosters, for the media, for everybody who's watching college football and being like, oh my God, North Carolina is trying to go all in when they're hiring one of the best football minds. And then the other part of that, why I think it's gotten a lot of excitement from Carolina fans, is the micro part of it, where you are bringing in one of the best football minds, where the past 6 years we've talked about a ton where Mac Brown goes into games at a coaching disadvantage, where he leaves a lot to be desired on Saturdays. Nobody's saying that about Bill Belichick. Like, Mac Brown can win you a press conference. Bill Belichick might lose you the press conference, but he can win on Sundays. And when you're looking at Bill Belichick, Carolina is asking him to outcoach Stanford, outcoach Duke, outcoach these schools in the ACC, and you're looking around at maybe where some of the hang-ups were with Bill Belichick in his final years in New England. There's no Josh Allen in the ACC. There's no Patrick Mahomes. And when Carolina can come with this $20 million endowment into their NIL program, you surround them with a general manager type staff that could be pretty good in the transfer portal. And then all of a sudden it's you see it with SMU, where they walk into the ACC the first year from the American Athletic Conference, and they're contending and look just as good as any team in the conference. So I think that kind of plays into a part why there's a lot of excitement with Bill Belichick.
With his son, what is your understanding of their expectation of how this will work?
Yeah, I've seen the reports where he has this head coach in waiting title. Inside Carolina's been pretty strong in refuting that, and from talking to all sources, that's not something that Bubba Cunningham would really sign up for. But it when you're looking,
but Vip, if you're being honest, man, Bubba wouldn't sign up for this hire.
He ultimately, the reporting, the sourcing was that the board of trustees could push any hire that they want, but the ultimate sign off was going to be from Bubba Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably like a whole different thing. But he is here. Bubba seems very excited about it, and I think when you turn on the Pat McAfee show, when you turn on Get Up, when you turn on any of these programs, the lead story today and this week is people talking about North Carolina football.
Plus, I'm just going to editorialize here. I don't think Bubba's going to be around to make that decision after the fact. So he might be off somewhere else by his own accord, by the way, by his own accord. That's my own theory. That's my theory.
No, we're having a conversation here, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's one thing to say that Bubba wouldn't sign off on the son being designated as the coach in waiting, but that kind of implies that whatever Bubba's say was in all of this. Glenn Schumann was interviewed twice, right? I mean, I'll go to my grave saying Glenn Schumann would have been Bubba Cunningham's choice with all things being equal.
But Bubba might not have a choice. To Vippolis' point.
Well, yeah. Where does the $20 million?
Right.
Where do the trustees with the money come from?
Same thing that happened with Mac.
Yeah.
It's just playing itself over again. The trustees can't do it. I'm not a state laws expert. I just know that they can't be the ones that do it because I think there's some state laws that end up being broken. Same with the whole nepotism thing too. That there's some weird laws about that as well. But I honestly don't think that Bubba's going to be around for. He's like, man, that's a you problem after this. That's my own theory. But you just hit on the thing that I was more curious about because, look, man, we know how the new media works. You especially, because you're the youngin', you're living it. And I keep hearing this is great for North Carolina because look at all the publicity that it's getting, as if North Carolina needs like additional publicity. I mean, for heaven's sake, North Carolina is the brand that with the next round of college realignment, even before Bill Belichick, they were somebody that was going to be targeted. Before Bill Belichick, it had nothing to do with Bill. I kind of view this, and tell me if I'm wrong, I kind of view this as Bill. The publicity is for Bill. It's going to be the battle of why Bill went to UNC, went to college, as opposed to the NFL. That when he goes on with McAfee, it's a Bill story, not necessarily a North Carolina story. So how much more Q rating does Carolina really need when they already have a ton of it?
I think the biggest thing is Carolina trying to take that next step as a football program. Like, Carolina could have hired any other coach in this cycle, and people aren't talking about it. People aren't backing it and pushing the investments as much as you've seen with somebody like Bill Belichick. So I think for Carolina, this is all about them trying to get their program to the next level and kind of rising to where schools like Alabama are. And so I think as much as the story is about like this Bill Belichick redemption arc, I think from like, if you're looking at this from a Carolina lens perspective, which I'm sure a lot of people locally are, for me, this story is almost just as much as Carolina finally investing into a football program when everything around the country kind of highlights like, hey, this is the sport you have to kind of go all in on.
Now, from the Carolina perspective, I'm curious how it's going to be covered. This is not going to be a relationship with a coach that we're used to. You know, something tells me that Bill Belichick is not going to have a 3-hour sit down with a select amount of media guys who cover UNC to give them the inside scoop of what's going on behind the scenes, right? Like that kind of thing. But I am here for the Adam Smith, Bill Belichick back and forth at press conferences. I'm looking forward to that. Now, Bill, with that Adam Smith Southern accent, I'm looking forward to this.
I can't wait to see the first Ross Martin question.
If it's not about his girlfriend, I'll be stunned. I will be stunned.
It's going to be off the charts, man. Off the charts. All right. So at the beginning of this thing, I had a list of predictions. So I'm going to ask the Carolina guy his takes on these things. Are you ready, Vip?
As ready as I think I'll be.
Will Bill Belichick be the head coach on August 30th against TCU at Keenan?
Yes. And it's going to be the hardest ticket to get in Carolina football history.
Easily. How many years will Bill Belichick actually be coach?
Yeah, the interesting thing with the contract is it's a 5-year contract, but only 3 are guaranteed.
Right.
So if I had to have the over under at like 2.5, I would bet on the over.
Okay, you're betting in the over on that. Will he go undefeated against NC State?
He made the game a lot more interesting than it's been the past couple of years, with NC State kind of getting the upper hand, and you already hear the NC State players kind of chirping.
Which is great, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, I won't say he's going to go undefeated until you kind of see what he does in the transfer portal.
Okay.
Just because when you hear Dave Doran talk about Carolina, you can understand why NC State has the success they do against Carolina, because from December to December, Dave Doran's kind of hammering home to his program like, this is the game that matters.
Mm-hmm. Will Bill Belichick appear in the ACC title game or in an ACC title game?
If Carolina properly uses the endowment money that's being funneled into the program, I would say so. Just you look around the landscape of the ACC, Clemson's down, or not down, but not their normal selves. Florida State's down. Miami, it's hard to have any trust in that Miami program with Mario Cristobal kind of running the show. So I would bet yes, just because the ACC theoretically is there for the taking, and SMU kind of highlighted that this year.
They certainly did. And finally, our weekend observations being pulled so that we can get Vippolis truth bombs every Monday throughout the Bill Belichick era on the Dan Le Batard show.
I need my checks to keep cashing, so weekend observations will keep happening on Mondays or Tuesdays. There's some days where Stu Gatz doesn't get to it on Monday, and I could see it getting later in the day, and he's like, buddy, we're just gonna have to do this Tuesday. I'm too tired. And I'm like, okay, Stu. They're ready for you Sunday night.
Fair enough. Yeah, man. I retweeted it. It's all over the place with Le Batard, but I did shed a tear watching Vippolis essentially do the Dan Le Batard bit back at Dan Le Batard and telling him to give it to me again. I enjoyed the Schefter thing, running circles around Schefter in a studio apartment. I enjoyed that.
The most underrated parts of that, because I went into it and Chris Cody was like, how do you feel? And I was like, the lines are good. Like I have no doubt in the lines. It's the delivery I'm worried about.
Yeah.
So as I start delivering it, I think you could hear the shakiness in my voice as it starts. Yeah. But I have Jess to my left and Tony to my right, where every time I say something, they're just giving me like the hype and the backing, and Mike Ryan is just lifting me off the ground. So it probably took about three rants in, but I started to find my footing, even though my footing was not on the ground.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. The problem with our business today is that everything is on camera. If this were just classic radio, no cameras around, nobody would have known. Nobody would have known, man. Taylor Vippolis, Inside Carolina, Dan Le Batard Show, Meadowlark Media. Hey, man, we appreciate the time as always, and we'll talk to you later.
Always, guys. Thank you.
Big thanks to our friends at Hometown Realty. It's an OG and friends kind of podcast, and our corporate champions are our friends too. And they can help accommodate you and your friends for your next holiday party. I know it's going to happen. You're going to have people over. You're going to have friends and family over. You're going to be like, we are bursting at the seams at this house. Or let's be real. You go to a friend's house. They just bought a house. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I need a new house. You need to contact Hometown Realty. Hey, man.
They can work a lot of magic, but I don't know if they can work that for me.
Maybe not, but just
for normal people.
But it's worth a shot. It's kind of like Carolina.
Have a conversation.
It's kind of like Carolina Bill Belichick. Like,
that's right.
It hasn't worked for all these other people, but it might work for us. So contact them today at
1 in a million, Jerry. 1 in a million.
HTR.com. We've been talking a lot of legal stuff as though we know what the hell we're talking about. You know who knows their legal stuff? Whitaker and Hamer.
Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer. Whitaker and Hamer, greatest URL of all time, WH.lawyer.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little tired right now. I need to pick me up. You know what's going to help me out when I go home? An Allman Brothers at Happy and Hale. Because that's packed with the goodness.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
You know, it's funny. We haven't taken a hockey break today. You know, originally I was going to contact like Maniscalco today. Be like, hey, let's check in with the Canes. You know, how things have been going. I'm like, Joe, what are you doing? No, it's the full on put your arms around the Bill Belichick story all day today. That's what it's all about.
I already put in the request to Ethan Hyman for one of his greatest pictures of all time from NC State's Pro Day in 2018 of Bill Belichick and Dave Doran.
It might show up as
it will be right there.
It might show up as the mailbag image tomorrow.
Okay.
Just saying. Perfect. But in the meantime, go to Happy and Hale today and go eat some goods. And if you need a pick-me-up smoothie, they're the ones to do it. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, our friend, Tar Heel legend, NFL reporter for ESPN. And who knows? Maybe she can be like the Brian Windhorst for Bill Belichick here in Chapel Hill. It is Brooke Pryor. Brooke, what up?
Oh, not too much. I was just trying to think of how I could quickly hit like the windy fingers. What is going on in Chapel Hill? But I have a coffee cup in one hand because it's been a long 24, 48, 36 hours. Times are interesting is what I can say.
Before we get into some Tar Heel football therapy for you, you are not at owners meetings. Our friend Jonathan Jones from CBS is at owners meetings. And I know he was tweeting through it, and I was relying on his reporting because this was a weird college football coaching search because you had the competing cadence of a college football coaching search news cycle with NFL insider news cycles as well. And I'm not going to lie. I was waiting for a JJ or a Schefter to really give us what was going on here. So what was your phone like in the last 48 hours as we approached this Bill Belichick, North Carolina marriage?
So I had this analogy popped into my head last night. When Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce started dating, it felt like my church friends and my school friends were meeting and hanging out. And those are like two very separate worlds.
Yeah.
With Belichick interviewing and now being hired at UNC, it feels like I changed schools and I invited both sets of friends to my birthday party. Like they know about each other. They know they have a general understanding, but there's a lot of inside jokes that I'm having to explain back and forth. Like, oh, actually, this happened in third grade before I met you, and this is why it's relevant now. Like that has been, I've had a lot of people texting me, like my UNC friends, saying, wait, his girlfriend is how old? And she followed who on Instagram? And who is Michael Lombardi? And it's just like a lot of having to play catch up. And then my NFL friends have said, really, Chapel Hill? To which I get a little defensive. Why would you not want to go to Chapel Hill? Although I do understand it does not make a lot of sense from he's not going to Alabama. He's not going to a place that has an established football culture. I mean, he's going somewhere saying, I am happy to be, or I understand that I'm second fiddle to basketball. I understand historically this program has been second fiddle to basketball. It has been very interesting, and I've had a lot of like, can you believe this is happening? And my response has been, no, I really can't. I really, until I see Bill Belichick on the sideline at Keenan, I don't think this is going to feel real.
I just wish it was Mike Tomlin. I wish we had the cool NFL coach.
I'm actually,
because you could come back either way. You could come back.
Okay, fair. So the funny thing is, thank you. I appreciate that. Someone has to. The funny thing is,
away from Russ.
He's lovely. He's lovely. Do you guys remember a couple years ago when LSU was looking for a head coach before they hired Brian Kelly, and Mike Tomlin was asked in a press conference, are you considering LSU or any other college openings? And Mike Tomlin said, there's not a booster with a blank check big enough. For Bill Belichick, apparently there is, but also Bill Belichick wasn't coming from a place of employment. So
okay. You led me to what I was curious about. This doesn't happen if Bill Belichick has legitimate NFL job prospects. Straight up. I'm not trying to, this is not something that is debatable. If Bill Belichick had a legitimate shot at any of the jobs that are currently open or we know will be open once we hit Black Monday in the NFL news cycle, Bill Belichick is not at North Carolina. Bill Belichick is not at North Carolina on top of the hiring cycle in college football kind of being what it is. Very tepid hiring cycle. Like the stars had to align for Carolina to make this happen, or at least have a chance to make it happen. And I think the biggest one is his job prospects in the NFL. So what exactly is going on? Why can't Bill get a freaking call from an NFL team?
So that's what I think is interesting. I had this conversation with a couple people, execs in the NFL this last weekend on Sunday, when it felt like we might be going toward this, but there's still enough of like, there's no way this is going to happen. And I had someone tell me that Bill Belichick is radioactive in the NFL. And I just thought it's crazy, because I didn't think, I was not surprised that he didn't get a job in the last cycle, right? I mean, there's the idea of like, he's coming off a really bad end to things in New England. There's a lot of recency bias in a negative way, in that way, like, oh, I know exactly what happened. I need to let this sit for a minute. But I thought, okay, well, maybe by the next cycle, people will have forgotten how bad things were at the end of New England and remember the Super Bowl rings, Tom Brady, when things were good. But in some ways, I almost wonder if Belichick hurt his chances to get back into the NFL by going on this all-out media blitz, by constantly being in our conscience. I mean, the NFL was never going to forget about him. The NFL just needed to remember him differently. And I don't think that him going out and having a personality at all these shows and doing the Manning cast and all those things, I don't think that rehabbed his football image or his image in front offices, because people are still thinking, like, when I think of Bill Belichick, I think of a guy that wants to have complete control, run everything, former players saying how miserable it was to play for him, things like that. I think that people were not able in the NFL to forget the bad about Bill, if that makes sense. And so they weren't ready for it. And I also don't think it helps his case that in the NFL, the assistants that have been hired from his coaching tree to head coaching jobs don't have a ton of success. I mean, right now, I think that Brian Flores is doing a great job in Minnesota. He's still a coordinator. I'd like to see him get another chance. I think that he, at this point, has the best shot to have success as an NFL head coach out of the Belichick coaching tree. But like, by and large, the Bill method of coaching, of being a hard ass, of, kind of isolating yourself as CEO and you rule with an iron fist, that's not the way of the NFL right now. The coaches that are having success, and I think you're seeing this in Hard Knocks right now, Mike Tomlin, players coach, keeping it real with his guys all the time. Mike McDaniel in Miami, having mixed success on the field, but his players love him, and he's a goober. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, same thing. Sean McVay, it's the era of a player's coach. Bill Belichick is not a player's coach. He's a CEO coach. He's removed, and the NFL doesn't want that right now. And college football thinks they want it. UNC thinks they want it. I'm interested to see, and I've had a couple texts from people in the league who have kind of expressed to me, like, look, I think that he's going to do a good job maximizing the talent that he has in terms of like schematics on the field. But how's he going to recruit? How's he going to relate to these kids? He might walk in when he's recruiting in the living room and say, look at my Super Bowl rings, and that gets him in the door. But what happens when the honeymoon period is over? Yeah. What happens when the name brand shock of like, wow, I'm playing for Bill Belichick wears off? I mean, how much fun is that going to be? And I think that I'm interested to see where things are a year from now. I don't think we will know the direction of this experiment until we get midway through the season and they're losing to Wake Forest and they're going to go play Clemson and they're below 500. Like, how are things going to be then? How are our guys going to want to keep playing? Or are they going to hit the portal?
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about this on the NFL level, because if I'm not mistaken, even Rich Kotite got another job. Like, Rich Kotite is considered the worst coach in the NFL history, and he somehow got a second job. And Bill Belichick, the greatest coach in NFL history, couldn't get a second job. And it's fascinating to think about in this sense. It's one thing to, and listen, we're going to have to deal with him, so maybe I'll clean up my language here a little bit.
Are we?
I'll clean up my language. Just
okay.
This is me cleaning up my language. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. It is one thing to put your punch card on the table, okay, and show everybody all of your notes about Malcolm Butler and how great you are. Mm-hmm. It is one thing to rub it in everybody's faces with, I'm the only one who thought of to wear 7-inch stud spikes in the snow. Mm-hmm. If not for me, we never would have had these great innovations. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, not unlike the great Dean Smith, claiming to have invented the tired signal. Well, shit, Dean, I'm really glad you thought of that. You know what else Dean gets credit for inventing? The huddle.
Yeah.
At the foul. Yeah. Oh, my God. What an innovator.
Well, real quick, to your point.
Oh, I'm just starting to cook here, sir.
The 400-page operation manual.
Yeah.
And the way it was portrayed was, oh, my God. Whoa. The Rosetta Stone to unlocking things. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't think every major coach has some sort of user manual? Like, come on, man.
Duke just did this.
I know.
All of these things, it's one thing to be a jerk when you're winning. It's one thing to run it up on your opponents. And then the karma bounces back to you to say, wow, I don't understand. I was beating all of these teams by 50 and I was not being a very nice person in the process. And now none of them want to hire me. What? That's one thing. It is entirely another to have a deal seemingly at the doorstep with the Atlanta Falcons, and for the person who you have worked closest with to go and then badmouth you to that franchise, to that owner specifically. That's an entirely different thing. Entirely. So all I can assume, again, he says he has his NFL contacts. Of course he does. They must be telling him the words that Brooke used, radioactive. Mm-hmm. You're not getting back in.
Yeah.
That must be, and that for a man with that ego has to be the most sobering, depressing thought on the planet. Now, I would love to have $10 million to have those sobering, depressing thoughts assuage my anxieties and fears. I would love that. That would be an amazing thing.
Yeah, yeah.
To your point, though, about Bill Belichick recruiting, he's never going to recruit. He's hiring
Mike Lombardi.
He's hiring
reportedly.
Mike Lombardi.
His boys.
Like, let's talk about people who've made bad decisions in their lives. My goodness gracious. Personnel wise. So we're going to hire this person. They're going to go in the portal. They're going to be like me. I can't wait for all of this. They're going to go look at tape. Hey, there's a quarterback at New Mexico State who went into Auburn last year and won a football game. Hey, there's a quarterback at New Mexico State who won 10 games last year. Hey, there's a quarterback at New Mexico State that people overlooked. That's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going into the number one recruit's house and giving, the whole spiel of, come do this, come do that. Quite frankly, he can't go into anyone's home and say, I'm going to be here next year. Cannot do it.
Yeah.
So he'll be here for the 2025 season. Beyond that,
who knows?
It'll be his son who'll have to go and do the things. And I can't wait till we get the full Woj treatment, timeout interviews, halftime interviews, Monday interviews. I can't wait for that whole thing to play out either.
Well, Joe, you just hit on it, and I'm curious, Brooke.
Sorry, Brooke. Soliloquy.
Okay, but there's a question out of soliloquy, actually, because Joe kind of set it up in talent evaluation. He's talking about this New Mexico quarterback and things like that. Part of the radioactive aspect of Bill Belichick was the cold, hard facts of the Patriots record and his draft record and free agency record. That's kind of dogging him in the NFL of this great talent evaluator to find the lacrosse player from the D3 thing that he can magically turn into a wide receiver. But that kind of ran out at the end, did it not?
It did. And I think that's my primary concern, which is wild because I have a lot of concerns. But when I think about the strengths of Bill Belichick or why you would want a former NFL head coach to run your college program, one of those things is, well, shoot, they coach in the NFL. They must know how to evaluate and develop talent.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that Bill Belichick identified, evaluated, and developed Tom Brady. But what about Mac Jones? What about any number of the guys that you've never heard of again in the last 5 or 6 draft classes? I was looking at those lists and Christian Gonzalez jumped out. He's obviously showed a lot of promise before he got hurt last year. Honestly, I have not paid a lot of attention to the Patriots this year to see how he's continuing to do. But by and large, their draft classes have not been impressive because I feel like Bill was trying to big brain it in a lot of ways. That's his MO.
I got one. This ties in your Carolina and it ties in your NFL. Let's get your church friends and your high school friends.
I know that he drafted Ramondre Stevenson, which was a good pickup. He's an Oklahoma guy, different past life.
I don't know your power at ESPN. If you have the ability to ask a producer, hey, can you pull X clips? Can you do that? Is that something that's
sometimes? Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I would love your opinion on all the times this draft lead up, the way Bill Belichick talked about Drake May. Okay. I mean, it's right there on YouTube, Front Street with Pat McAfee, where he was wholly unimpressed with Drake May. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why the hell are you bringing up Drake May, draft quarterback? Well, this gets into the talent evaluation and how Bill Belichick operates. In college, it's all there for you with Mac Brown, right? You got Mark May's kid, Luke May's brother, Tar Heel freaking royalty, for lack of a better term, right?
I prefer for life.
Tar Heel for life. Thank you. Shout out to Caleb Love. Tar Heel for life, all right? It's a feel-good story. He's coming home. He's clearly an NFL draft prospect, okay? But Bill was unimpressed. And I'm wondering in the great what if Bill Belichick was the coach and the situations were the same and Drake May was coming up, would he want Drake May? Or would he tell all these Carolina people, he's a May? And Bill goes, well, I don't really like his footwork. I really don't think, he thinks he's a Josh Allen, but I just don't see that. And I really like this other guy who I saw at John Hopkins play lacrosse. And I really think that that's an opportunity for us.
I think in fairness to...
I'm being serious here.
Yeah.
No, I think that that's fair because the other thing that I think about when I look at how bad Bill's track record was or how hit and miss it was recently, when you're drafting in the NFL, guys can't decide to go somewhere else, right? There's a set draft order. There's a finite number of teams. In college football, guys can say, okay, fine. You're expressing to me that you're not interested. Great. I'm going to go somewhere else. There's free will.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the talent pool is so much different. In the NFL, you're fishing in a stocked pond. In college football, you're fishing in the ocean. and you might hit a school of fish that has some talent, but like you could also get the one-off radioactive fish that poisons everybody else. Like there's just so much more variability in the guys that you can go after, and the ceiling could be higher if you hit on the right guy, but man, that floor is a lot lower. And that is really scary if I'm trying to build a college program and I'm giving Bill Belichick the master key to everything and saying, all right, evaluate away. You make that roster how you want. Like there's no guardrails the way that there at least are in the NFL. And yeah, like he can get creative and go after a lacrosse player that's, just in the draft is going to be a UDFA guy kind of thing, but didn't go to the combine. But still, there are no lines for him to color inside of in college football, and that makes me really scared.
Can't wait to see Bill Belichick in an Alexander Julian sleeveless hoodie on that.
But will it be Argyle?
It has to be. With a hole in it. Brooke Pryor, ESPN. We appreciate it. Have fun. Maybe we'll see you in Chapel Hill soon.
All right, joining us now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline to talk about O2 Fitness, our friend Matt Schmidt. And Matt, I think you're ready to get an uptick in septuagenarians who want to be in shape to be able to go over to Chapel Hill, walk the steps, and watch Bill Belichick in his twilight years, right?
Yeah. I guess that's what we're looking for now. Well, I appreciate you having me on, Joe. It's good to be back. Yeah, I can't say I'm excited. I got to be honest.
You're not. So you're not a UNC fan, is what you're saying? I'm
a big time UNC fan.
Oh, you're in the rare subset of UNC fans who are not excited. Okay,
look, I equate it to the New York Jets bringing in Aaron Rodgers. You bring in a guy who used to be good. He won a Super Bowl. He did a lot of good things. And then you bring him to a historically, just not set up well organization. And I think this is pretty similar. I think we're bringing in a guy. Yeah, he did a lot in the NFL, but is UNC set up for that sort of attention, for that sort of power in their football program? I don't think so personally. So I don't know. I would have, and with all these different contract stipulations surrounding his son and all this stuff, it kind of just sounds like nepotism at its finest. Like we might get a year or two of Bill before he's like, all right, sayonara, here's Steve.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm super pumped.
I do know what runs smoothly though, and that is O2 Fitness. You're in Durham. And
yes.
one thing I try to tell people, not only just about physical therapy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but one thing I try to tell people about a gym in particular, and let's be honest, people, it's December. Pretty soon those New Year's resolutions are going to be kicking in. It's going to be Matt's busy season, okay?
Oh, yeah.
What's important to Matt's busy season is having a lot of different locations. Chapel Hill, Durham, Briar Creek, all the spots, especially our home base in Raleigh down at Seaboard Station. So are you prepared for your busy season?
Hey, I'm always prepared. Look, end of the year is always busy too because people have met their deductibles with their insurance and they're like, hey, let's go and get everything taken care of. So in the middle of a busy season, but hey, we thrive on the chaos. And it just makes our day more interesting. The more people we can help, the more people we can meet. We obviously have the equipment, the knowledge, and the desire to handle anybody that comes in here. So it'll be great.
O2fitnessclubs.com. You got Renew Physiotherapy. You've got Loop Nutrition. And just before we leave you, give me a real quick, what are some of your best practices for when you see people in January, when you know that they're motivated and they're either ready to, get in shape or, kind of rehab an injury and say, no, I'm serious this time. I want to be ready for my golf game. I want to be ready for pickleball this spring. What are some of your best practices to keep people ready and motivated so that they're on track?
Right. So I think what separates this company, myself included in physical therapy and in this sphere of health, right, is the individualization and the understanding that every individual is unique, right? I feel like physical therapy, you talk to a person and you're like, hey, what's your idea of PT? And they'll be like, oh, some guy wearing some tight pants will give me some exercises. He'll say, go give me 3 sets of 10. I'll see you in 20 minutes. You know, that's not how we do things here. That's not how I do my practice. So when people come in and they're like, I have these goals, right? What we're trained and what everybody really is trained to do, whether they want to implement this or not, is to say, hey, you're a unique individual with this sort of movement pattern, right? You've been brought up this way. You have this history with athletics, with wellness, right? How do we attribute your goals to what exactly you're bringing into us in terms of what your body looks like, what your strengths and weaknesses are, what your impairments are? And frankly, not a lot of physical therapists take the time to really understand that before they establish a treatment plan, right? So for me, that first session is always spent 100% of the time on evaluation, because I have to know that person before I'm able to tell them anything about how to reach their goals, right? And I think that's across the board with all Renew. So I think we do a really good job of that, and that's what really sets us apart with that.
Couldn't agree more. Get yourself a good plan. Get to know your physical therapist. Check them out. It's o2fitnessclubs.com. Matt Schmidt, hold down the fort there in Durham for us, and let's see how this whole thing works out with Belichick. Okay,
I'll see how it goes. Yeah, Chapel Bill all the way. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you,
sir. You were surprised by that reaction.
Well, if it was not a Carolina fan, yeah
you were surprised by that. Matt, you were surprised. Never be surprised by the money you're going to save at State Farm with Matt Davis.
And there's only one way to find out.
Got to call him, 919-779-8277, insuregarner.com. He's a Duke guy. I am curious how Matt feels about this.
He doesn't pay that much attention to football, though.
I said he's a Duke guy, right? Hey, Duke football fans, I know you exist. Don't worry. I get it. The trajectory's up. You're prepared for the Bill Belichick era.
You got a Tulane guy who's super interested in academics.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's why he's there, not the money. Just think of the money you could save. Just call Matt Davis, 919-779-8277.
You brought me a sipper.
I did.
I did. Was that a cola?
Mary Jones soda.
That was a cream soda, right?
Or was
like
orange
creamsicle
cream
thing?
Yeah, it's a 10. You know, I can't drink a 10.
No, you cannot drink a 10. You know, I had a lot of people.
You know, it's closing time if I have a 10.
There were so many people yesterday that were concerned for you when we went after dark because you had a couple natties in you.
Concerned?
Yeah, they're like, did Joe have a DD?
What?
I know. It was funny. I told some people, he sleeps it off in the studio. He's good.
What?
You were feeling it a little bit yesterday.
Get out of here.
But it's the holidays. Sometimes you got to power through. That's another kind of power through crew. And if you got to power through dealing with your family this holiday season, may I suggest that you try Nature's Relief. Get a little something to take the edge off at Nature's Relief. It'll chill you out. Nature's Relief, hempstore.com. And we'll be at the OG Tailgate with our friends from the Nature's Relief shops. All right. Big thanks to Roback as we start to get out of here. Go to roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order.
We're back in promo code protocols. OG20.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So it's not too late. I know it's we're within the window of 12 days of Christmas. So let's go. Start thinking about your gifts. Start thinking about making sure you get the polo of the guy in your life's dreams under that tree. That's what it's all about. From Taz, so much more than a gym.
Yeah,
You're
man.
right.
Mascot takes.
Hot takes coming through as well.
Hey, man.
Anyway, I enjoy shows like today. I enjoy when we get to go OG and friends. Big thanks to West Durham for hanging out with us at the beginning of the show. Jonathan Jones, who is a man who has a very, very busy schedule being an NFL insider, making time for us. Our guy, Taylor Vippolis at Inside Carolina, giving us a little bit of timeline. And, of course, Brooke Pryor of ESPN putting up with us. There was more from Brooke, but
the rewatch, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Brooke's making life choices now. Like, why do
I talk to these guys? It just reminds her.
Stick to Adam. I mean, it's just safer.
It just reminds her. It reminds her of home. It reminds her of home. So big thanks to everybody. Big thanks to y'all for watching us as we did an OG Live on a very historic day in the Triangle. I will say this, and I mean this with sincerity. Yes, the Northeast Corridor has all your NFL teams and your baseball teams and everything else, but nothing quite sizzles like the Triangle. Nothing provides the content quite like the Triangle. Bill Belichick didn't go to Birmingham. Bill Belichick didn't take it out. He came to Chapel Hill, Joe.
And he didn't come here to leave.
where he's about to experience triangle good football. Spider-Man pointing meme. So again, thanks to everybody who's watching. Throw us a like, leave the comments, and of course, sign up for OGTriangleMedia.com. Be an OG fan subscriber. We'll give you that mailbag episode tomorrow because there's a lot of sports phone calls, a lot of emails that have been coming through. So hit those likes, turn your notifications on, and of course, leave a review. 5 stars only, positive vibes only, because that helps with podcast discovery as well when you leave those 5 stars and leave a review on Apple and Spotify. So we appreciate that. We will see you